What is good, YouTube? Um, Today is January 15, Thursday. It's 3:45. Market is currently closed, but we did take a trade today. We ended up taking two trades, one win, one break, or one loss, one break even. We are down 4,500 on the day between all my accounts. Coming into today, I woke up and I saw this massive rally from overnight session. We rallied about 300 points from around 11 p.m. Yeah, around 400 points all the way to New York Open. So I came in. I wasn't really expecting any volume to be in the market. We haven't seen a day like this overnight in quite some time. As I always say, when trading, we are looking for the closest draws to us. And before we even get into draws and liquidity, it's just looking at basic market structure and seeing that if we've rallied over 400 points overnight, I didn't expect us to be bearish coming into today. I was probably looking for a pullback and some continuation longs to our relative equal highs that we left from January 13 at 26.42, and then we also had some relative equals at 26.119 if we were to, potentially come in, get a pullback, and then take out those draws to the upside. But so I'm gonna briefly explain what my thought process was when taking this trade. As I said, first 40 minutes of market was pretty much lackluster. Not a lot of volume in the market. We were trading before this, it was a 100 point range for about an hour and 15 minutes. But on this rally up, we see that we created a 4-hour bearish gap. We inversed a 4-hour bearish gap, and that creates a BPR range. And then we go down to the 1 minute and we see that we have this 1-hour bullish gap as well right here. And so seeing that, I'm waiting for potentially, well, that already happened, but I'm waiting for a pullback into the zone, a bearish inverse gap that I can inverse, and then I'll take my entry to the upside, and it'll be something like that. But that didn't work. But what happened was we did end up getting that 1-hour pullback, and we ended up tagging the 1 hour. I'm actually gonna put it on. Did we tag? No, we tagged the 4-hour. We didn't tag the 1 hour. I kind of wish we tagged both of them, because that would have been a little bit extra confirmation that we were going to be extra bullish. Whoa, that's kind of huge. Okay, so as we can see, this is the 4-hour gap that we had created, and we see that we did come in and we did end up tagging it, just barely though. And we have this crazy manipulation, not a I would call it a manipulation wick. It was super random, 40-point candle. You don't usually see those, but coming out of that 4-hour gap, what happened was we came out of it, we V-shaped, we inversed this 5-minute bearish gap that we had created. So if we look at the 5-minute here, we see that we created this 5-minute bearish gap right here, and I was just waiting for any bearish gap to get inversed, and we see that that 5-minute gap did get inversed. The reason I didn't take it off the first initial inverse right here was because our stop wouldn't have been protected due to I didn't like the fact that I would have had to run a 90-point stop all the way down to this swing low right here. So I was waiting for a better entry, and I didn't want to have to run something like this, because that's just not how I trade. I'm usually targeting 20 to 30 point stop losses, anywhere between that range. Anything above 40 to 50 is kind of pushing it. I don't really want to entertain that, but I didn't want to run this, so I was waiting for maybe a pullback, a tag into one of these lower gaps, and then I'll take that inverse to the upside for potentially all of this up here, but ideally targeting this swing high that we created right here that I'll actually mark out for future use just in case. I think that's actually our New York AM high for today. Yeah, that is our New York AM high. I'll mark that out later. But yeah, that would have been if I was to take it off of this initial inverse. So what happened was we inverse this 5-minute bearish gap. We ended up creating a 5-minute bearish bullish gap right here. We see that it price tagged it, and we did end up taking out this liquidity right here. We never ended up sweeping this liquidity right here, but you could have potentially ran, if you were to take it off the retest, you could have ran this at CE to this first high, you know, potentially targeting up here. But if you were targeting this high, you did make cheese, and you have this as your swing low right here. Let me delete this off the chart. You would have had this as your swing low, potentially an 8-point stop. That's what I would have taken if I wanted that, but I wasn't really convinced. I thought there would be a little bit more manipulation, and then what happened was, after we came out and we swept these highs right here, we came back down, we tagged it the 5-minute bullish gap again, and we see that we inverse this 1-minute gap. I took my longs off of that inverse, got stopped out in 4 minutes. I don't know, I thought it was a pretty good play taking it off of this inverse after we see that we just retagged it right here. It wasn't actually, it was a good play. Market was just, I would say that market was just manipulating it multiple times, because we see that once we got it hit my stop loss. We tagged this 5-minute bullish gap again. I take another entry at that same point. We ended up targeting or hitting this swing high, and we ended up sweeping it. I wanted higher for, once again, this 8:45 a.m. high that we created, 25,952. We just never ended up getting it, and I did end up going break even at when we hit this high. And so my second trade was a break even trade. I'm not too mad at it. I'll take that play every single day of the week. It just sucks that it didn't hit today, but that is my trade for today. And then we see that market did end up selling off, but I wasn't here for that. But yeah, I think that's pretty much everything. Yeah, I hope y'all have a good day. I hope y'all caught a dub today. If not, it is what it is. Keep hooping, keep working. You know, we gotta just catch a dub, you know. Yeah.